Nini, welcome. I'm Queen Mother Imakhu, and it's a pleasure to be with you again on another night. And I just got in from a meeting, so please forgive me. It's 9:32, but I want to keep my promise about coming on every night, especially during this summer cycle. So today, we're talking about when you have people who kind of want to intrude their craziness into your world, or where they want to suck you in to their craziness. Uh, in fact, this one I've entitled When People Want to Pull You into Their Private Hell, or when people invite you into their private hell. So please share and subscribe if you have not on YouTube, and also at my Queen Mother Imakhu page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Imakhu. And I want to tell you that you're also welcome to share in the chat, share your thoughts, share your experiences, and let's have good conversation together about what it's like when people who are not exactly sound end up trying to make your world crazy, because they are too. I've had that happen on a number of occasions, and there have been so many telltale signs that were right there in the very beginning that I tried to overlook, that I forgave, that I made excuses for. And I realized that, especially now at this stage of my life, I can't do that no more. No more. It's never worked out well. And truly, if there is someone who is trying to convince you that the madness in their world is okay, that's when you need to ixnay, okay? Get the heck up out of there. I dodged a bullet, so to speak, when I tried to move into this house. I was invited to move into this apartment in a really ritzy town near here. And when I kept being told it's not ready, uh, I sent some folks over there who were friends of mine, some brother friends, and they broke it down to me. It's like, you do not want to live in this place. It looks like the crazy house. And um, I had to really examine that. Well, what was all that about? This person trying to pull me into this place that was supposedly, from what I was told, resoundingly from everybody I sent over there to help, because I was told it was just going to take some clearing out, not too long, blah, blah, blah. I was told it was a hoarder's paradise. One person said, Queen Mother, you ever seen an episode of Hoarders? He said it's worse. I was like, oh, my Lord. And so the thing is, the person would not let me see the place. We just want to make sure it's perfect for you. And but there were a lot of other indicators to me that things were just really off, including having an issue with boundaries. People, we were talking yesterday about invasive touch, and this person kept making excuses to do invasive touch with me. Stop, just get off, and but then I had to look at a whole bunch of other things too. And see, here's the big question. Why do people who are not well, who are not balanced, who maybe kind of off, want you to become a part of their snake pit? Some of it has to do with jealousy. If you are used to living at a higher level and maintaining that level and doing your best to maintain that level, no matter what your finances are, still you have a standard and you want to maintain that standard, and you are clear on wanting to maintain that standard. Some people, their attitude is like, oh, well, who you think you are? Because see, people, when they see how you live, they convince themselves that you may need to be taken down a few notches, or their jealousy may compel them to try to bring you into their chaos. Others, because they are so desperate to have what you have and they do not, that's the other thing that compels them. Way of Blue, how are you this evening? It's good to see you. And then you hear something that's interesting, and I've seen this consistently when people have tried to pull me into their chaos. Usually they'll start being hypercritical about the things that they're jealous of, like maybe where and how you live, the standard that you have. Oh, well, you like these kinds of foods. Why can't you just have this? And maybe they'll try to force some foods on you that you don't want. I had a situation where I was sick. After I had my oral surgery, I was given this medication that made me just break out all over my body. I was so itchy and so miserable. And so I had to use something prescription in order to eradicate it. But my pharmacist told me, okay, just be prepared. It's going to knock you out. And surely enough, it did. I mean, I was just laid up here in the dark, just laid out on my couch, just like, okay. I didn't have any choice in the matter. I was just knocked out. And this person was insisting on coming over. I said, I am not ready to receive company. I've been laid out here in the dark, with my TV watching me, and I don't want any company. But this person was insisting, oh no, let me come and bring you something. Don't you want some aloe vera? No, I had some that was delivered, same day delivery from Amazon, the gel in a jar. I'm good. Well, don't you want this? No, I don't want any company. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see anybody. Okay. Who shows up at my door? And he was saying just, oh, I'll just bring this stuff to your door, because he insisted on going to the store for me anyway. So now I'm forced to get up, throw some clothes on. And so I go to the door. Instead of just doing a pass off, he walked past me and came into my apartment. Boundary issues. I was so upset, but I was too knocked out to really address it, And I mean, that's a problem with respecting people's boundaries, and especially when you are vulnerable, right? So, the whole psychology behind trying to convince somebody else to come and live in your private hell really is a strong indicator that there's something wrong with the person. Okay. So now the thing is, what do you do about it? Right. People may try to make you feel very guilty, try to call you bougie. Call me bougie all day. Okay. My grandparents made all kinds of sacrifices coming up from the sharecropping farms in the South to come up here and make themselves business people for me to live well. Okay. So if you want to call me bougie, call me bougie. All right. I say I live according to the standards of our Kemetic ancestors, who insisted and were highly encouraged living well, living at a high standard, maintaining a high standard. Remember, the Kemites actually were the ones who taught high levels of cleanliness and order to the world. Yesterday, we talked about Isfet, which is chaos and disorder, versus Ma'at, which is order, reciprocity, balance, justice, higher love, and I feel like I'm leaving one out. Oh, boundaries. Yes, respecting boundaries. So the absence of Ma'at is Isfet. Many of us experience different levels of growing up in Isfet. I talked about that yesterday. But when you see better, you automatically should want better and want to do your best to improve your life. And you must fight for that and maintain it. I'm here to tell you, because I've had a number of relationships that have just not gone well, and a lot of it was all based on these men trying to pull me into their chaos and pulling me into their chaos, and then also working hard to just lower my standard of life, and my having to claw my way to holding on to what I was accustomed to, and then being resented for it. Now, when you have someone who is resentful of the fact that you like things clean and orderly and peaceful, then What place do they really have in your life? Why are they there? What is their intention? What will they do to you? I often refer to the 11th Gua in the I Ching. It is one of my absolute favorites, 11th hexagram. And it tells the story. A lot of you who follow me have heard this before, but it bears repeating. It tells the story of a Chinese family that worked so hard to attain what they had. And, they went from nothing to over the years building up wealth. And it was intended to be generational wealth for the family. So it was not just for them to enjoy after the all of the labor that they put in, but it was also for those who were coming up behind them. Now, there were generations that were still tapped into the story of how the family attained their wealth. And so they continued to work hard to hold on to it. But then time passed, and some generations were not in touch with exactly how they got their wealth. They got lazy. They didn't do anything about maintaining it. And so then finally, when they didn't have any money, right, all of the elders who had gone before, they had passed away, and it was their job, this newer generation, to maintain, but they just squandered. So instead of working hard to try to regain and retain what the family once had, they decided, oh, well, we ain't got no more money, so let's marry off our younger sister to our enemies so that we can get the dowry, and then at least we'll have something. So they're willing to trade off a family member to to an enemy that had nothing to do with them, their culture, their appreciation of where they came from, because all they wanted was that immediate loot. So starting there, when you lose sight of your worth, you know, and when you are just loving the luxury but not doing anything to maintain it, then that lowers um, the quality of life, and also it lowers the standards, and also, um, truthfully, you lose some of your standing in terms of class, right? I mean, you can be classy and have nothing, right? Because you understand your worth, and so you carry yourself in a way that shows that you respect yourself. But then when people get sloppy about it, and they start not really thinking about how they're seen in the world, thinking about what they're doing and the impact it's having on others, and especially the overall well-being of the family when it comes to what has been attained, then that creates isfet. Why? Because you have lost your mindfulness of how everything was attained, how everything was achieved. You may have also lost, or maybe never really got, a strong work ethic so that you can get it again. You know, thinking just for today is just not wisdom. It's not. So when you have someone who is not appreciative of all the work that has gone in, say if somebody buys, your family finally gets a house and you grew up in it, and so then you're set to inherit it, and maybe you do, but then you don't even bother to take care of the house, right? It starts looking really cruddy, crappy. You become that house on the block, okay? That one everybody talks about. And you become oblivious to it because you're just on another whole tip. This is a disappointment to your ancestors who worked so hard to get this. It is your job to live at a better standard, and also to want people to be around you who reflect those standards. But you want to make sure that you are in a place where you're not living in delusion, because some people are delusional. They are. They think that the hovel that they're living in is a palace. And, even if it's nasty, you know, they justify the nastiness, right? and then look at you like, what's wrong, or complain, what's the matter with you? If you're like, wow, could you scrub the walls? You get this mold out of here, Um, so I'm not talking about the situation where you have somebody who is without an address and they would just be very glad to just get indoors. I'm not talking about that kind of situation at all, right? Oh, Stanley Brown, thank you. Duau. Duau. I appreciate that. I'm going to share that on the screen. I keep forgetting to do that. You know, Merea, much love, much love. Dua, duau. Waya Blue says, so like tribal tattoos or a family crest? No, no. I'm talking about actual tangible wealth. You know, you went from, I'll give you the example of my family. So I'm so very proud of my grandparents. I come from a great lineage. My grandparents were sharecroppers. And now my grandfather had come from a family that once had wealth. This was just two generations before him. His grandfather, my great grandfather, Adam Toussaint Ortiz, he had become wealthy, in the South. And this is having one parent that had been enslaved and his mother was free. But he became a wealthy landowner. And something happened in the next generation where my great grandmother was not able to tap into any of that wealth, or because she was female, possibly, plus there were like 10 kids, but she ended up having to marry several times in order to survive, right? Um, this was a common thing that was done. People will still do it today. But then my grandfather and his siblings came along, and they were farmers. They worked the land. And then he met my grandmother. They married and they became sharecroppers. I mean, traveling sharecroppers. So my mother was born in one town. My uncle was born in another. My aunts, they each were born in different places because they were constantly on the move looking for work. But eventually they came up north and they joined the other family members who had left North Carolina, and they did the thing that a lot of immigrant families used to do, and something that we need to start looking at in terms of sacrifice. Excuse me, my legs falling asleep. So that is, where you certain family members will come up north, get established, send money back home, and send forward some other family members to come up, and then they would get on their feet, go get their own place, and then help somebody else. So this constant, okay, helping the family to literally come up north, but also to get the come up, right? So that everybody was established, but in the meantime, you had the sacrifice of all living kind of bunched up on each other in one place. But everybody eventually got their own, right? The Kemetic teachings reinforce the notion of having your own. That's why I'm going to real estate school next month. That's why I'm focused on being like my grandparents, who came up north, became landowners and business people. That's my example. And, I've had former husbands who insulted my family, F your ancestors, nobody cares. Okay, it's not my fault you ain't have nothing. Okay, it's not my fault that you came from nothing. All right, but don't knock me. You wanted to marry me, right? You wanted to marry into this family. Okay. One who said, your family ain't nothing but a bunch of uppity blah blah blah. Oh, really? Yeah. So, and these were individuals who were really trying so hard to pull me down. I don't know if ever any of you have seen Streetcar Named Desire, and that this is with Marlon Brando, Vivian Lee, who is the other actress? But I can't really watch it. It disturbs me so much because the Marlon Brando character, who was basically this very low class brute, ends up marrying Stella, who came from a well to do family, and pulled her down off of her high horse, as he thought of it, and was so glad to do that. Just, had her living at this very low level, and everybody he hung out with were a bunch of lowlifes and didn't have any ambition. And, you saw a perverted delight that he had in just completely changing her world from being a debutante to just being less than an average housewife to a man who was abusive and um, um, alcoholic, and where they lived in poverty. It's disturbing because the fact that that kind of thing is real. And this is not just between husbands and wives. This is something where people who are maybe in your circle and they call themselves friends, and you find that they're not really your friends. They're around you because of something they want from you, or because they're jealous of you. They just want to be able to say that they're in your world. They want to be able to touch you. They want to be able to taste and sense everything about this world that they're not familiar with. And they want in so badly. But once they get in, they want to stay in, but they also want to just push you down because they're still warring with the jealousy that they have about the life that you have had and maintained that they didn't have. There's a real sick mentality that goes along with that. Stanley says, so true. My grandparents owned 3 houses in Irvington and Newark. They passed away, and my moms and aunties were not able to keep them. I've heard about that. Brother Stan, let me tell you something. That is the story in my family because, the sad thing is that every single thing that my grandparents attained is gone, and they died debt-free. All their properties were paid off, and everything was set to be passed off onto the next generation. But the next generation did not want to keep it. Well, my mother did, but that's another whole story. And we, the grandkids, were looking to inherit these. It was heartbreaking, so it's unfortunately a very common story. And this is why the 11th Wa is so important to me, because it reminds me, you have a standard to set and you have a benchmark to reach and surpass, because that's the standard that was set in our family. So what does that mean? Number one, that means no more jokers, okay? No more people, be they male, friends, female, whoever, right? No more of that. No more them hanging around, because you'll find, you think they're friends, and then that little comments that'll slip out of their mouths that are really passive aggressive, And how many times do you keep forgiving that and overlooking that before you realize who it is you're really dealing with? People should want your success. You should want the same for your friends and loved ones, And one reason that we find ourselves losing out on the inheritance that has been left behind is because of greed. So, money, the understanding of money between generations becomes different. And so this is one reason why I really absolutely love the Kemetic tradition so much, because all the writings that were left behind about living well without shame. It's important to be able to help one another. In the book of Ankh-Shushanki, it talks about there are verses that say, may I know my brothers and sisters so I may I'm able to share with them, so we're also able to share the wealth together, right? And this is considered a natural part of life. Why? Because you're helping each other up, and it's reciprocal. Good and well that everybody has the same intention. Everybody in the same circle is looking to elevate, and there's no There's no mistrust. There's no deviousness. There is nothing but sincere intention and maintaining the work that you have put in order to ascend. You see? I see what Way Blue says, like Hannah from the biblical text. Yeah, Hannah, man, she got bashed. She really, yeah. Um, Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for pointing that out. Um, so, why do we make concessions for people who don't have our best interest at heart? Well, I mentioned before guilt. People will guilt us. I mentioned yesterday about how people who are more intellectual are pretty well targeted, and you're made to feel ashamed because of the fact that you love learning and because you're smart. And others may feel threatened by that because perhaps they haven't had the same sense of the importance of learning instilled in them, or they're basically just too lazy, right? Or they may not have had the same benefits in education. I remember somebody who was in my life who was making excuses and just saying, "Hey, listen, I'm the product of my school system here. What can I say?" And I'm like, how long are you going to lean on that, right? Because I know everybody who came out of your school system didn't come out, you know, just not having a desire to further their education. It's just not true. So you can make as many excuses as you want, and it may be a reality in your life. Maybe you did have a cruddy school, maybe you were handed limitations, but what do you want now? What do you want now? And are you going to be the one to ride on others' coattails in order to attain what you are looking for, or are you going to earn your own success? There's a difference between working with colleagues and partners and mates who are on the same page and where you are working for that joint success, and those who ride on others' coattails. That's because they're looking for the easy way, and that's because they just figure that their proximity to you is going to be what helps them, and also it's going to rub off on you, and just going to bring them into circles that they have not been in before, like I said before. But see, here's the thing: it's important to know who you let in the room with you. Some people don't belong there. Period. We can experience all kinds of guilt because we're programmed about helping our people, but the saying, not all kinfolk are not all skin folk are kinfolk. You have to learn who you trust, and who, if you bring them into the exclusive room of people who are movers and shakers, are going to exploit that, and those who are going to really benefit from it and grow from it. How many of you understand what I'm saying? How many of you feel that? How many of you have been there? Please drop some words in the chat. Let me know. You are listening to Shenu Living, and I'm your host, Queen Mother Imakhu. And we're talking today about when people invite you into their private hell. Now, all right, so the private hell may not necessarily be the surroundings. That can be entirely up here. Although if you're living in surroundings that are like hoarded over and just kind of like really, where you're just existing there because the fact that all your stuff is taking up all the space, and you've let it become overrun with rodents and so forth, and you've just told yourself, well, this is just how it's going to be, right? As long as I step outside and present a different image, and I don't let anybody in, to see how I'm living, then I'm cool. But then at some point you get so bold in your delusional thinking that you invite somebody else in, and it's through somebody else's eyes that you finally have a chance to realize, oh, I think I need to be embarrassed. But then there are some people who don't even know how to be embarrassed. They don't even know they should be embarrassed. But the whole thing is That's a reflection of your mental state. But what happens if you go into a home that's really perfect and eventually you find out that this person is um, seriously ill? I'm trying to avoid the word crazy. Okay, I'm trying to be as PC as I possibly can. Um, that's another way of inviting people into their hell. You know, when you have people who are stalkers, people who are obsessed with you, people who uh, maybe have all kinds of problems where they're always falling out with people, but they don't see that it's them. And they're used to creating chaos and drama instead of seeking peace. And then when they get to a place of peace, they don't know how to act. So they bring about what's comfortable for them, which is the internal drama and expressing it outwardly and expecting you to be complicit with that behavior and accept it as being what should be so for your life as well. No. I'm not talking about when you have loved ones who go through some stuff, because we all go through stuff. We all do. That doesn't mean that you should abandon them when that happens, because we need to support one another. But I'm talking about people who really just take you out there, out there, out there, out there, right? And expect for you to be out there with them, you know? I'm jumping out of this plane without a parachute. Come on. Now, do you let your mind go so far where you're going to jump out the plane with them with no parachute? Or are you going to stand back and go, oh, no, look, how did I even get in this plane? Let's start there, all right? That part. How did I get in this plane? I don't even want to fly, okay? But I let this person talk me into getting in this plane, and then now I find out he's going to jump out and thinks I'm going to come with him. We have a lot of situations like that in life where people just take us all the way out there, and you start asking yourself, how did I get here? So we have to stop ourselves before that. And so this is why in the Kemetic tradition we focus on living according to the 42 principles, because they reinforce boundaries and respect of boundaries. I have not done wrong, I mean, one by one by one. And this is to remind us that if you live according to the societal laws that are the precepts that are set down within the laws of my eight, or the precepts of my eight, then it makes you mindful of those around you in your behavior and those that you want to attract into your life. Now, because of all the therapy that I've had and all the introspection that I've done, and also because of my deep, deep faith, I'm at a place where I can stop myself, right? So that it won't go back to what I dealt with before. Because now, listen, I don't ever want to go back. Oh no, oh no, no, no. See, there's that wisdom piece again. When you start remembering, wow, this happened, and then this, and this, and this, all because I lowered my standards and let this person in. So you don't want that to happen. You want to just pick yourself up and get back to the place of ascending. Stan Lee says, okay, so you've had these experiences. You say you got to stop being so trusting. Yeah. Yeah. I was having a conversation tonight at the meeting that I was at, with the whole thing about what it's like when you're a very trusting person, because that's the other part, where you don't go along with your intuition. You don't trust your intuition. You go along with your heart, which is like, oh, maybe it's not the way that I think it is, oh, maybe I'm misperceiving. Oh, maybe I'm being a little too snooty about this. Oh, maybe I should just give this person a chance. And then what you do is you find out that you have given that person a chance to just smack you in the face, and everything just disintegrates. No, no, no. Peace and blessings. It's good to see you, Velvet Nebula. It's a beautiful name. It's beautiful. So, what are your thoughts? This goes back to Are you worth it? Are you worth it? It's worth being pure of heart. It's worth it to have a certain amount of innocence. But here's what I've discovered. See, if you're dealing with a warrior, because warriors have the jobs of protecting people or the community and or both. If you're a warrior, you're not thinking, oh, I'll give this person a chance. No, you recognize this person is the enemy and you do everything you can to keep them out of the sphere that you are protecting. Yes? The body electric supplement. That's okay. So I guess that's a product, right? Welcome, Nini. Like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football, right? You know, it's so frustrating. It's like, why does Charlie Brown keep trusting Lucy with that daggone football? You know, she's going to yank it out from underneath him and he's going to end up falling on his head, you know? I've been in those situations and tried to give people another chance. Yeah. At what point do you say, I am done? No more. No. Yeah. You know, I used to wonder what compelled Charles Schultz to um, uh, to create Charlie Brown, but then I found out that basically he was the Charlie Brown character, and he had a lot of bullying that happened in his life, and you just feel so sad for Charlie Brown, you know. But he's hopeful that maybe this one time Lucy will be nice to him. Maybe this time Lucy will give him respect and let him kick that daggone football. Lucy, who is the ultimate narcissist, ain't trying to let Charlie Brown have any kind of success. Is not trying to let him feel good, you know, but she keeps throwing these hopes out there and pretending like that he may have a chance. It is just not within Lucy's nature to be nice. She's bossy, she's self-centered, and she likes to cause pain. Yet it's interesting that she has set herself up with this little psychiatrist stand that she has made. You know, you get free counseling for a nickel. She's the expert too, right? So when you have these people who really just loom large in your life when you actually don't want them to, but the next thing you know, they're just all up in it. You know, it's. I'm gonna tell you the great thing about the therapy that I've been getting. We've been getting the tools for how to deal with the bullies that try to force their way into their lives that won't leave. And sometimes you just don't know what to say. You know, that was the discussion I was having with this sister tonight, you know, at the meeting that we were at. The whole thing about just not knowing what to say. You know, I've been there a lot where I just didn't know how to get out of the situation. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I was just so overwhelmed by the fact that this person just kept on force fitting his way into my life. You know, this situation, and this situation, and this situation. I mean, it's been pretty crazy. And it all stemmed from my lowering my guard instead of going with my instinct. And then when they were in, not knowing how to put them out, not knowing how to address it. You know, peace and blessings, Reverend Tamu. Give it thanks and praise. It's so good to see you. So, what else do you have to say about it? How do you feel about the people who are in your circle? I'm gonna tell you that there's a saying that I don't know who originated it. I forget who originated it, but I first heard it from Will Smith, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. And again, I have to look up exactly who first said it, but examine the 5 closest people to you in your life. And depending on how they are, that's a direct reflection upon you and how you will be in the next 5 years. The first time I heard that was back in 2011. And I mean, everything in me just froze. You know, these are the people you spend the most time with. Not so much that they're your friends, but the people you spend the most time with. And at that time, I was doing a whole lot of phone counseling and all day. I mean, I'm on the phone talking to people who are broke, talking to people who are broken, broken. And next thing you know, my life got whittled down. And when I heard that, I said, I got to make some changes today. And this is something I've done over and over again. Why? Because I kept letting myself get roped back into this whole thing of, oh, don't be so hard on the person. And then finding out, nah. You should have just kept your standards, you know? So who do you spend the most time with? We're talking about people at work. Hey, cuz, how you doing? It's good talking to you today. Looking forward to hanging out this week. Well, in a couple of days, okay? Um, so if you look at the people you spend the most time with, now, I mean, you could be somebody who is constantly at work and you're mostly dealing with your coworkers. Well, how are they? You can be somebody who is basically in the house, right? But the people that you talk to most are on the phone. Well, who are they? What are you talking about? You know, are you talking about goals? Are you all, being the rah-rah team for each other so that you are able to move beyond your circumstances? Not saying there's anything wrong with being at home. I love my home. Okay. So, it should be a place of safety, a place of comfort, a place of beauty, beautiful aesthetics, clean, all that, right? I mean, even when I was on the road a lot and I would be in my hotel rooms, I loved it because it was my sanctuary, just, yeah. So your safe place should be a place that makes you feel good, right? Oh, wow. Thank you, Reverend Tamu. Thank you. Marsha Perkins says, good evening. Finally, I get what my grandmother used to say to me as a child. Darling, follow your first mind. It took many heartbreaking lessons to finally get it at these late years. Sister Marsha, first of all, it's good to see you. And yeah, I like to pretty much serve as like a lesson and a warning. I'm 64 and I'm finally getting all of these lessons. Mm-hmm. I'm determined to not let myself be used anymore. I'm determined to not ignore my intuition, and I'm determined to flourish and not have any shame about it. Anybody who tries to shame you about it is just doesn't have a place in your life. I mean, sometimes you have to put up with people like on your job. Then sometimes you have family members who are your family. I mean, although you can put up barriers regarding how you interact with your family and if you do, especially if they are being negative towards you. And, like I had a relative one time who saw one of my sacred belly dance videos. I was showing it to her and she's looking at it and she said, but I just can't see that for you. I said, what are you talking about? You're looking at it. You're looking at me too, okay? Well, I don't know. I just never imagined that for you. What are you talking about? There were other things, right? The same person when I was a kid, when I said I wanted to be a ballet dancer, she said, we're both kids, and she said, you can't be a ballet dancer. You have to chop your toes off in order to fit into those toe shoes. You don't want that. I mean, I was just like horrified. But eventually I went to ballet class. Yes, I did. Although when it came to learning toe, I actually insisted on not doing that. I never made that connection until just now. I got as far as I could, and then I said, "You're not making me get in those toe shoes." No. And it's not because I believed I had to chop my toes off to fit into the shoes. I was like, I actually was thinking I'm not ruining my feet. It's not natural. And, and I'm glad that I did actually pay attention in the various phases of my career as a dancer as to what to do and what not to do. Ballet is something that is essential if you're going to be a professional dancer because you need to have the technique, but you also need to have the terminology, right? so that when they're teaching choreography, you know what steps they're talking about. And then when I was performing and teaching tap, when I got to be 45, I listened to my body. My knees were like, we ain't doing this no more. And I said, bet, because I had a lot of other colleagues who had already at 45 had hip replacements, knee replacements, and I didn't want that for my life. So I stopped performing and teaching tap at age 45. I'm now 64. Wow, it's been almost 20 years. Um, yeah, I miss it sometimes, but I don't miss getting replacement, hip replacements or whatever. I mean, as it is, I've already had some leg injuries. They were not dance related, but you kind of need to have good, strong, healthy legs when you get older, right? I mean, well, just in general, but still. Um, but the point, going back to the whole point of this family member, you don't want to do that. Oh, I can't see this for your life. Why are you doing this? I mean, always feeding negativity, trying to deter me from what was in my heart, because I knew in my heart that I was a dancer. Even at 5 years old, I'm drawing myself as a ballerina, right? And I always saw myself performing on stage, singing and playing instruments and all of that stuff every step of the way. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? But this is my life. This is who I am. Okay. Reverend Tamu says I was also a ballet and tap dancer as a child. Right. Yeah. It's something, it kind of stays with you. I'm able to pretty much pick out people who have had a lot of dance in their lives, whether they went into it professionally or whether they had it as a foundation as a kid, because there's just something in your carriage. And there is a specific discipline that goes along with being a dancer and then also a stage performer. I'm ever, ever grateful for that. I don't like the industry, but the art forms I love. Yeah. So, um, I studied ballet and jazz dance as well. It is sad when others don't see your vision. Yeah. Yeah. Whale Blue says, is that there now, ma'am? Reverend Tamu says, I absolutely love to dance and very natural at it. Freestyle and interpretive. I have a good posture. Maybe that's related. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. My favorite dance form actually um, is, um, they call it contemporary now. They used to call it modern. And, I don't even know if the show So You Think You Can Dance is still on, but um, there, there was the most glorious performance that the late Twitch did. That's the show that made him a star, because he was a street dancer, but he could do any form that was given to him. He was amazing. And so there was this modern dance piece that took place, a contemporary dance piece that, what was her name? Was it Mia? I can't think of it. But I'm going to look it up, because I want you all to go and look this up and watch it, because, talking about getting beyond your limitations, Twitch was a street dancer who ended up excelling on this show, and every form that was given to him, he fully put himself into. You would never think that he was not trained in all these forms. So let me see. Twitch and Mia. Pretty sure her name is Mia. Let's see. Here it is. Yes, Mia Michaels. It's called Carrington and Twitch. Mia Michaels' contemporary dreaming with a broken, is it heart? No, what's the title? Broken Heart. Yes. Yes. It is, let me turn this off. It is an astounding piece. not only because of Mia Michaels' incredible choreography, she is one of the outstanding choreographers of our time, but also because of the performance by Twitch. I don't even remember the name of the other person. What is it here? Carrington? I mean, she was good too, but Twitch is the one who really blew you away. Please look it up. I mean, again, what you put your mind to, not letting others deter you, right? I'm very sad about what happened to him. I'm not even gonna go into the details because there's a lot of speculation. It's sad that he's gone because he was extremely talented. So, Body Electric says, "Loved that show because they worked to include so many forms of dance." Yes, yes. Oh gosh, of all the competition shows, I would say that that was my absolute favorite. Yeah, Mia Michaels. She's a choreographer. Amazing, just amazing. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about what they need to do to get themselves to be motivated to live at a higher place, to move the negative people out of your lives, to watch out for those who may not hold the same standards as you and then try to ridicule you for them, or the people in your life who actually encourage you to be who you are and beyond, simply because they admire the fact that you hold a high standard. Let me warn you also, the higher you go, the more haters you get. That's just life. In the story of Aset, she actually had a lot of secret enemies. Aset people draw a lot of secret enemies. And it's not that they've done anything, they're just living their lives. But because people were just so jealous of her high vibration, and they just set out to destroy her instead of to help her. So but she always rose above because she had the foresight and the vision for where she was going and what she had to do, no matter what. She made the mistake of trusting Satesh. Why? Because of her innocence and naivete. It took her a minute to kind of get on her warrior tip and realize, okay, he's family, but I can't trust him like that. Oh gosh, he did a lot. He had her imprisoned at one point, killed at one point, killed Asar. By the same token, her son chopped off her head at one point. It was replaced, but she had a huge lesson to learn regarding who to really trust and who to stop extending excuses for. She made excuses for Satesh. So, um, but her shining example is one of not giving in, not compromising, and to keep forging ahead because the fact that you see the vision that others don't see, and you know what you have to do, and also you remember the power that you possess in order to make these things so in your life and to be able to affect others. Yes. Okay. Body Electric says, I used to cry to see those performances on So You Think You Can Dance, right? See, that's when you know that the job has been done, when you have been moved. I think that kind of brilliance is so inspiring. And it's something that we need to remember. A few days ago, I asked you all, what inspires you? Who inspires you? And to hold on to that inspiration, because sometimes we may feel a little low, we may feel a little out of place, we may feel alone, but holding on to that inspiration, you know. I've mentioned about my new boo in the ethers, Juan Gabriel. I've told you about he's my new musical boo. Okay. I have all these artists who I have admired over the years. And I admire the genius that oh gosh, I mean, there are so many concerts that are on with him, and I discover new music of his every single day. Um, my living musical boo is Mark Anthony, okay, because of his voice and because of his amazing stage presence and the shows and so forth. But he's also one amazing actor. But I have to tell you that I also absolutely love Peebo Bryson. When he came out with his music in the 80s, 70s actually, the late 70s and into the 80s, that's when he was in his absolute heyday. And then I think he had a hit with Regina Bell in the 90s with A Whole New World. I think it was either the late 80s or early 90s. But he has the most wonderful mellifluous voice that is another level of mastery. You know, when you have people who are able to just hypnotize you in a good way, we talked about all that, but in a good way where you just feel healed, you feel elevated, you know, the power of good music and good art in general. That's why I love being an artist, because you can heal and change lives. Hold on to your vision, hold on to your power, hold on to your belief in yourself. We say, Copernicus, I created myself. Remember that you have the power to change your life. With that, I will say goodnight. I am Queen Mother Imakhu, and it has been my pleasure to be with you again this evening. We say Merea, which means much love, Heri, which means be at peace, Teni, which means to be accountable, and Jebewi, which means to be merciful, but remember first to extend the proper mercy to yourself. Have a wonderful evening. Resui Nichem. Sweet dreams.